one of the reasons when you walk in these doors, years ago, the Lord spoke to us and said that we were to buy in bulk Andrew Murray's humility book, when he did on humility. And years ago, the first book when you walk in here, and we hand you, that's the first book you get, is the humility book. So you won't think, they're giving me the humility. Oh no. I mean, we used to have to explain ourselves. We'd be handed to somebody, have you read this? Do I need to? Yes, you do, but that's not the reason. Of course, they're thinking that there's a subtle little hint. And it's not a subtle little hint. The fact is you're arrogant. And God doesn't want you to be. But that's not what I'm saying to you right now. Let God say that, because I'm not saying it. But this is a great book. You'll hate it every minute. I think if I remember right, Miss Davis asked one time somebody if she'd give one. Well, what do you think about the book? I don't know. I'm crying too much to find out. I mean, it's you're leaking all over the place. And he said it well. Were you going to say something? You remembered who it was. Yeah. Anyway, we didn't give it out to our arrogant friends. We gave it out to our friends who were all arrogant. Now, we could have given it to our enemies too, who would have been all arrogant. I mean, this is who we are, and yet Father wants us to go in the other direction. Who do people say I am is a much different statement than the Son of Man, and him talking in the third person. Where he would talk in the first person, he really needed them to hear, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me. You've got to hear that. You don't need to hear every branch in the Son of Man. No, every branch in me. Anyway, so verse 14. And they said, some say John the Baptist, who was dead by then, and others Elijah, but still others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. And he said to them, who do you say I am? Simon Peter answered, and that's never a surprise, as we know, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus said to him, blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, because. Now, I'm going to stop there for a second. Over and over, you'll see this in commentaries, you'll see this, people preaching this. We've said it over and over. I'm going to say it again. What has happened is people have grabbed onto what he says here. And I mean that they will have the trumpets blaring, This is why he was the first pope. Look at this. He got it. See, he got it. And they go back to the words. It's the words that he said. He spoke. Spaketh thee, all of thou. Spake ye, you all the Christ, the Son of the living God. That's not why Jesus blessed him. It's not there. He says, blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, because flesh and blood did not reveal this to you. Flesh and blood did not reveal this to you. That is why he's blessed, because Father did it instead. Okay? And, I mean, do I have a problem with his words? Anybody that's a believer doesn't. He's the Christ, the Son of the living God. Are these great words? Yes. Should we blare the trumpets when it's happening? Go ahead. I mean, I'm all for it. It's great because they're awesome words. And if we were to put ourselves back in his position, I would have been going, dude, I can't figure you out, okay? But Simon Peter is going, you're the Christ, the Son of the living God. So at least Peter shut up long enough to hear that, and I probably wouldn't have. And those are great words. But that's not, it says it there, why Peter is blessed, and it's also not what Jesus built the church on. The church is based upon this great confession. Jesus Christ is the Son of the living God. Okay. Yay. I mean, we're all for it. It's got my vote, but it's not the rock on which he built the church. Let's go on. Jesus said to him, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, because." Because why? Flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. Now, the thing that is exciting here is that it was revealed in a spiritual way. It's a revelation, if you want to put it this way, the revelation that he was given. You wonder if Jesus knew that this was not being said to all the disciples, but Peter's the one who's going to give it out verbally. Maybe they heard it, or maybe they didn't. We'll never know. Maybe we will someday. But the fact is that, I mean, can't you see John up in heaven? I'm still bitter at him. I mean, just because his mouth went off quicker than he got that blessing and I didn't. Anyway, but blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, because flesh and blood, and here we go. Okay, it's time to go get evangelical. Flesh and blood did not reveal this to you. Well, I mean, I'm not against being evangelical, but what in the world? Look at what's going on. The person is blessed when it's not flesh and blood. And by the way, I need to tell you, if you get somebody saved, you know, you're dealing with them and you get them saved, they're still not saved. They're not saved. Oh, they prayed the prayer. If you got them saved, they didn't get saved. It's got to be revelation. He's going to tell you this. He's going to say it in just a minute. It's got to be the revelation from Father. You ever notice how many things that you get a mental assent to that's not what is really what you hold on to? When you get it down and hear from your Father, you're going, wow, I suddenly know that. It's something that's true now. If it's just something that you're going, oh yeah, I see that. I never thought about that before. From somebody's conversation, that's you didn't do anything. You haven't done anything. Let's go on. Jesus said to him, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, because flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but my Father, excuse me, who is in heaven." And again, this is one of the places that it should grieve you, that the church, and it's not this way with all, but we've gotten away from the miraculous. The birth from above is miraculous enough. The change in the life, the direction that life took. Maybe you knew this person when they were hideous and horrible, and they're suddenly changed. This buddy of mine that became a Christian after we had both graduated college, he had come to see me. And he said, I became a Christian, and I didn't believe him because I was with him that weekend, and his mouth still used the profanity like he and I used to talk all the time. Maybe not as much. And I remember that weekend, one of the nights, and this is back when I was young, and we were up till it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. And we'd been up talking about the Lord. I mean, I'm talking with this guy that I'm going, I don't think you're Christian. I didn't say that to him. But he would be talking about, I don't know, reading his Bible and other things. Yeah, right. But he made the statement, he said, can you imagine where our lives would be right now if we had been Christians back when we were in high school? I went, wow, yeah, I never thought about that, even though you're not a Christian. But I didn't say that to him. Well, the next time he came to visit, his profanity was down like to 25% of what it had been. I mean, it just rarely, and I'm going, wow. And the next time he came to visit, it wasn't there at all. And The Lord is sitting over there, tapping me on the shoulder. Hey, you judgmental. Maybe I should say you're not a Christian. You know what I mean? Anyway, I got a good kick out of that one. Well deserved. What would it be if we had been believer at that time? What would life look like right now? And there's a change. That change happens on the inside. Blessed are you when Father believes it, or gives it to you. When Father gives it to you, he just happens to be God. And it's not, okay, during a time of high emotion, I walk the aisle, and then when I'm actually supposed to act like a Christian, hey, let's go do this, I go, I won't do that. I've told you guys the story before, but I still remember. It's a long story, so I won't tell all of it. But the head of the agency I worked for, about 1,000 people in it, had asked me to head up a committee that was a liaison between all the worker bees and him. And I didn't know the man at the time. He had heard me speak on something and was excited about it. The Lord used it, put it in him. And I remember, now I thought, okay, I've got to tell him. And so I had talked to Mrs. Davis, and we'd prayed about it and decided that I would do that. And I said, I need to talk to you about it, though, sir. And he said, okay, I'll come down to your office. He's a big, big man. His little finger was the size of my thumb radius, diameter. He's a big guy. And he was sitting across the desk from me, and I said, I'll do this, but I'm just letting you know something. I'm a Christian. I'm not the greatest Christian in the world, but I'm a Christian. And I'm doing my best to live my life that way. And my everything is always going to be Jesus first. I mean, I'm willing to do the work. Obviously, this is why you asked me. You have confidence in me because of him, even though you may have not known that. And I told him, so if you ask me to do something immoral, you ask me to lie, something like that for you, I'm not going to. And I said, if you can take me on those, understanding that, well, that's fine. And he leaned forward. Like I said, I still remember those hands. They're just Goliath, it's his big, huge hands. I remember the ring on his finger looked like, a cannonball or something. It was huge. And he leaned across and looked me in the face, and he said, and I want you to know something too. There's nothing more important in my life than my relationship with our Lord Jesus Christ, and you could have knocked me over. Again, I just met the man, didn't know anything about him. He had just been brought into the agency a few months before as the head of this thing. And I just couldn't believe it. He was Catholic too. That made it even worse. He and I would get together and we would talk a little bit about business, but usually I met with him for about an hour every other week or so. But during that time, what we did is we spent time, maybe 10 minutes talking about business, and the rest of that hour was, what's the Lord doing in your life? And, talking about the Word, and did you see this, and what about that? And it was a lot more fun than doing work. So, and the boss wasn't going to fire me for doing it, so it was good. But the Lord had done that in him. The Lord had done that in me. There's where the change happens. It's not, I got it up here. It's in here. And let's go on to the next verse. He says, Ms. Davis, do you have anything to add on that? I also say to you that you are Peter. And the word Petros here in the Greek is a stone. So it's a small stone. And then he says, and upon this Petra, which is not a small stone. Okay, if you read it in the English, you're going, okay, it's the same. I say to you, you're Peter, and upon this rock. Well, your Peter means rock, and so does this other rock. Except Petros is a stone, and Petra is literally a projecting rock or a cliff. In other words, this thing is huge. A stone versus a cliff. He says, upon this cliff, this big projecting rock, I'm going to build my ecclesia. So it was not upon Peter. People go, well, he was the first pope, and he's blessed because he said those words, and that's not what he's saying. Upon this rock. What big rock? Let's go ahead. So we've gotten rid of Peter temporarily, but we're going, what big rock? He just said it. Upon this rock. He is saying this. Remember, he's speaking right now to the mouth of mouths, if you want to put it this way. He is talking to Peter. Peter, who was the leader of the 12. Why? I'll give you one guess. Peter could talk his way into anything and out of anything. And if it was going to be said, it was Peter. What about this? We've left all for thee, O Lord. Who was it? Peter. They're out in the boat that's going down. And he says, if it's you, Lord, tell me to walk on the water. I mean, is this your first thought? Come on. This guy is, he's out there. He's the leader. He's always, and he's impulsive. But he finally got quieted down a little bit anyway. You're not going to, I'm going to build it upon this little tiny rock. He's building it on a big rock. And the big rock was what? What he just said. The blessedness of Father revealing it to you. One of the reasons that we've lost this is on a pragmatic level. And that is easier to talk to somebody than to pray for them. If I pray for them, God is going to do it, and God's going to get the glory. If I go and win them, then I get the glory, and I can check them off, Jesus told us to make disciples. I agree, and that has to start. I understand, and it does, with at least when they get into with the miraculous birth from where? Above. Birth from above. Unless you're born from above. And that rebirth is when we are given literally a new nature. Now, what we do with the new nature after that is where the issue comes in. Are you going to be discipled? Are you going to be discipled? And that's where we're involved, making disciples. I'm not telling you not to tell people about the Lord, but I'm telling you, if you want to do it God's way, that takes you over again to John chapter 15, 7 and 8. If you abide in me, my words abide in you, ask whatever you wish will be done for you. Over and over again. He tells you that fruit in a Christian's life is answered prayer. And answered prayer, I think, specifically for bringing into the kingdom, too. I say specifically, I think would be a big one. Ms. Davis? Okay. Let's go on. Upon this rock I will build my ecclesia. Now, the ecclesia or ecclesia is pronounced, I hear it different ways, and I think it's all okay. What's not okay is church. Again, this is another one. The word Gehenna, we've decided to translate as hell. Somebody decided to say that. Gehenna is hell. Except Gehenna, in its original language, and it would have meant this. Where the Hades did you get that? That was close. Where? Why do you think that that's supposed to be hell? Somebody wanted it that way. Crowd control, honestly. But the word is Gehenna, which means the valley of Henna. The valley of. And it was the garbage dump for Jerusalem. And in the same way, we would have had a phrase, man, that is just garbage. Somebody's telling me something that's not true. You're worthless. What is that? You need to be thrown out in the trash. It's along the same. Jesus was saying they're going to be tossed aside into what? The trash. Why? They've chosen that. They've chosen. I want my life now, and Gehenna, and they go, well, because I'm so sick of this. The fires, because the fires of Gehenna never went out. Okay. Still, even with that, and I don't know that it's true, it's always in commentaries that somebody got something from somewhere. But even if that's where the fire doesn't go out, or didn't go out, it doesn't mean that men's souls are over there burning forever in the garbage dump of Jerusalem. And we chose that, and somebody chose also to take the word Ecclesia and use the word church. And it gave us a completely different connotation of it. Church now is the building. Church is the denomination. Church is this thing headed up by a pastor or a priest or Monsignor or something that is, and we might have deacons, we might have elders, we've got all these different thoughts about what church is. And the word, as we know, if you look it up, was a contraction of a phrase that meant house of the Lord. You go, okay, good, except the problem was it was house of the Lord Baal. It was literally used for, as we know, again, it was used for the heathen temple. And the ecclesia, if you look in its definition, is a completely different thing. My called out ones. And the ecclesia had a very specific definition in the Greek. It would be, and it would have come from, in the Greek political makeup. Remember, it was in Greece that they began to. They really were doing things more on the level of a democracy. We're citizens. If you were a citizen, and remember, we don't think about it a lot, but when Paul is being shoved around and pushed around by the authorities, and he gets whacked, and he goes, "Do you dare hit a Roman citizen? Do you dare? You putting your hands on me like, you're a Roman citizen?" Yeah, and I was born that way. The guy, that's arresting him going, "I paid a lot of money to become one. You're one. Oh, dear. All right, back off." He was a citizen of Rome. And at that time, they were starting to look at the people being, they didn't do a very good job of it, but more along sort of, not what we would think of, but the democratic way. The ecclesia in the Greek culture, the Greek city-states, there were people that would be called out. The ecclesia, they would be called out to rule. Now, I guess we could think of that in terms of we have an ecclesia in this country. Those that are in the government, administrative, the presidential, and then the judicial and the legislative in our country at this time, sort of. And those people are, if we look at them, they're called out. That's what a republic is. They're called out to rule. In a pure democracy, everybody's called out to rule. But here it's people that specifically are called out to rule. And we as Christians are first to, through the miraculous life of Jesus in us, rule over life. And this, of course, immediately gets us into forgiveness and unforgiveness. And we'll get there a lot quicker than you think, probably.